Christmas Eve mistakes. Natalie Chen sat cross-legged on her apartment floor, surrounded by crumpled tissues and half-empty takeout containers. The Christmas tree she had decorated with such hope 3 weeks ago now mocked her with its cheerful lights. Outside her window, the city of Seattle glowed with holiday warmth, but inside her heart felt frozen. She stared at her phone, reading and rereading the message she had typed to Trevor Walsh. Her ex-boyfriend. Her former boss. The man who had promised her forever before disappearing to Singapore for a temporary assignment that turned into 6 months of silence. The message was vulnerable, raw, honest. Everything Trevor had always criticized her for being. "I thought what we had was real," she had written. "I thought when you said you loved me, you meant it the way I did. Tonight I'm alone wondering if any of it mattered to you at all." The wine bottle beside her was 3/4 empty. Natalie knew she should delete the message, go to bed, wake up tomorrow with her dignity intact. But something inside her needed closure. Needed to know if she had meant anything at all. Her finger hovered over the send button. One tap. That's all it would take. She pressed it. The message flew into the digital universe, and immediately Natalie felt the rush of regret. What had she done? Trevor would probably laugh at her desperation. Or worse, not respond at all. She set the phone face down and walked to her kitchen, determined not to check for a response. But before she could even pour herself water, the phone buzzed. Her heart jumped. That was impossibly fast. Natalie grabbed the phone and opened the message. But the response made her blood run cold. "I think you have the wrong number, but I have to say this is the most honest thing anyone has said to me in years. And for what it's worth, if someone let you go, they made the biggest mistake of their life." Wrong number. Natalie's hand started shaking as she checked the contact. The number was saved as Trevor Walsh CEO, but when she looked closer, the last 4 digits were different. She must have grabbed the wrong contact when Trevor changed his number last month. "Oh my God," she whispered, covering her face. She had just poured her heart out to a complete stranger. The man behind the message. Her fingers flew across the screen. "I am so sorry. That message was private and not meant for you. Please forget you ever saw it." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Already forgotten. Though I hope whoever it was meant for realizes what they lost. Anyone who writes with that much heart deserves someone who cherishes it." Despite her embarrassment, Natalie found herself smiling. This stranger had something Trevor never did. Kindness without conditions. "Thank you. That's generous considering I just made you part of my messy life. I'm Natalie, by the way. Natalie Chen. Dominic. Dominic Stone." The name hit her like lightning. Dominic Stone. The new CEO who had just taken over Hartwell Industries 2 weeks ago. The man whose arrival had sent shockwaves through the entire company. Trevor's replacement. She had sent her heartbreak message to Trevor's successor. "Please tell me you're not the Dominic Stone who just became CEO of Hartwell Industries," she typed, already knowing the answer. "I am. And before you panic, let me guess. You work at Hartwell. You dated Trevor Walsh. And right now you're wondering if this is the worst professional disaster of your life. How did you know?" "Because I remember you, Natalie Chen. From 10 years ago. University of Washington. You sat 2 rows ahead of me in Professor Martinez's literature class. You always brought lavender tea in a purple thermos. You laughed at jokes nobody else understood. And you were the most beautiful person I ever saw." Natalie's breath caught. She scrolled through her memories, trying to place him. Literature class. 10 years ago. Then it hit her. The quiet guy who sat in the back. Dark hair. Intense eyes. He never spoke much, but when he did, everyone listened. She had noticed him, felt drawn to him, but he disappeared halfway through the semester. You left, she typed. You just stopped coming to class. My father got sick. I had to drop out and go home to Portland to help with the family business. I never got to tell you that I spent that entire semester working up the courage to talk to you. And then life took me away before I could. Unexpected confessions. Natalie sat down slowly, her mind spinning. The stranger who received her accidental message was not a stranger at all. He was someone from her past. Someone who remembered her purple thermos. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because life just gave me a second chance I never thought I'd get. And because that message you sent? It wasn't meant for me, but maybe it found exactly who needed to read it. I know what it feels like to lose someone you thought was forever. My engagement ended 8 months ago. So tonight, on Christmas Eve, we're both alone. But maybe we don't have to be. Natalie's heart was pounding. This felt impossible. Magical. Terrifying. I don't even know what to say. Say you'll let me buy you coffee tomorrow. As an apology for accidentally intercepting your private message. And as a chance for me to finally have that conversation I was too scared to start 10 years ago. She should say no. He was the CEO. She was a junior marketing coordinator. Trevor would lose his mind if he found out. Every logical part of her brain screamed danger. But her heart, the same heart that had been shattered by Trevor's absence, whispered something different. Café Nouveau on Pine Street. 10 in the morning. I'll be wearing a green scarf. I'll be the one trying not to look nervous. Natalie set down her phone and looked around her apartment. Suddenly the Christmas lights seemed brighter. The silence felt less heavy. In 12 hours, she would meet the man who remembered her lavender tea. The man who called her accidental message honest and beautiful. Trevor had taught her that love was conditional, earned through perfection and compliance. But maybe, just maybe, Dominic would show her something different. Maybe mistakes could become miracles. And maybe the heart always knew the way home, even when the mind got lost. As she finally crawled into bed, Natalie whispered into the darkness, "Thank you for the wrong number." And for the first time in 6 months, she fell asleep smiling, morning light and new possibilities. Natalie changed her outfit 5 times before settling on dark jeans, ankle boots, and a cream sweater under her green scarf. She wanted to look put together but not like she was trying too hard. Her reflection showed a woman who had barely slept, but whose eyes held something they had not held in months. Hope. Café Nouveau was a small corner spot with large windows and the scent of fresh pastries. Natalie arrived 10 minutes early, ordered a lavender tea out of habit, and chose a table by the window where she could watch the street. At exactly 10 o'clock, she saw him. Dominic Stone walked with quiet confidence, tall and lean in a charcoal coat. His dark hair was slightly wind-tossed, and when he spotted her through the window, his entire face transformed with a smile that made her stomach flip. He entered and walked straight to her table. Up close, she could see the boy from her literature class and the man before her. The same intense gray eyes. The same thoughtful expression. But now there was something else. Depth. Experience. Pain that had been survived. "Natalie Chen," he said softly. "You still drink lavender tea?" She laughed, surprised he noticed. "You remembered." "I remembered everything." He sat down across from her, his hands wrapped around his own coffee cup. "I remembered how you always arrived exactly 7 minutes before class started. How you underlined passages in your books with a purple pen. How you argued with Professor Martinez about the ending of every novel because you believed characters deserved better." Natalie felt her cheeks warm. "That's a little embarrassing. I was so intense back then." "You were passionate. There is a difference." And it was captivating. They talked for an hour that felt like 10 minutes. Dominic told her about leaving school to help run his family's struggling manufacturing company in Portland. How he spent 5 years learning every part of the business, making difficult decisions, turning the company profitable again. How his father recovered but Dominic had changed, grown into someone who understood responsibility and sacrifice. "I got engaged 3 years ago," he said, his voice quiet. "Rebecca. She was smart, ambitious, from a good family. Everything looked perfect on paper. But she wanted the version of me that fit her plans. When I told her I wanted to eventually leave Portland, explore other opportunities, be more than just the family business, she gave me an ultimatum. The company or her? What did you choose?" Natalie asked gently. "I chose myself. For the first time in my life, I chose what I actually wanted instead of what everyone expected." The engagement ended. "I spent 2 years working on myself, going to therapy, figuring out who Dominic Stone actually was underneath all the responsibilities. And then the opportunity at Hartwell came up. A chance to start fresh in Seattle. A chance to build something of my own." Natalie reached across the table, her hand covering his. "I'm sorry you went through that. But I think you made the brave choice." "What about you?" Dominic asked. "Tell me about Trevor Walsh." The truth about Trevor. Natalie took a deep breath. "Trevor was my supervisor when I started at Hartwell 2 years ago. He was charming, successful, confident. He pursued me relentlessly until I finally agreed to dinner. For 6 months, it was incredible. He made me feel special, important. But then he got the Singapore assignment." She paused, remembering the pain. "He promised it was temporary. 3 months maximum. He said we would do long distance and it would be fine. But 3 months became 6. His calls became less frequent. His messages more distant. When I asked him what was happening, he said I was being needy. That I did not understand the pressure he was under. That if I really loved him, I would be more supportive. He made you feel like your needs were the problem," Dominic said, anger flashing in his eyes. "Exactly. And I believed him. I spent 6 months making myself smaller, asking for less, pretending I was fine. Until Christmas Eve when I finally admitted I was not fine at all. That's when I sent the message. The message that accidentally came to you." Dominic was quiet for a moment. "Trevor Walsh is a fool. But I have to thank him for being one. Because his loss brought you back into my life." Natalie smiled, but before she could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her smile vanished. "Trevor. We need to talk. I'm back in Seattle. Meet me at my place tonight." "What is it?" Dominic asked, seeing her expression change. "Trevor. He's back. He wants to meet." Dominic's jaw tightened. "Are you going to go?" "I don't know. Part of me wants closure. Wants to hear what he has to say. But another part just wants to leave it all behind." "Then let me tell you something," Dominic said, his voice firm but gentle. "You deserve someone who shows up. Not someone who asks you to wait in the shadows of their life. Whatever you decide, know that you have options now. You're not alone anymore." Confronting the past. That evening, Natalie stood outside Trevor's downtown apartment. She had not told Dominic she decided to come, did not want him to feel obligated to protect her. This was something she needed to do for herself. Trevor opened the door looking exactly as she remembered. Perfectly styled blonde hair, expensive casual clothes, that practiced smile. But now she saw what she had not seen before. The smile did not reach his eyes. "Natalie. Come in." His apartment was immaculate, impersonal. Like a hotel room. She remained standing near the door. "I'm not staying long. You said we needed to talk." Trevor moved closer. "I made a mistake. Singapore was supposed to be my big break, the promotion that would set up our future. But I got caught up in the work, the pressure. I lost sight of what mattered. You mean you lost sight of me? Yes. And I'm sorry. I want another chance. I want us to start over. Natalie looked at him carefully. Why now? What changed? Trevor hesitated, and in that hesitation, she saw the truth. You heard about the new CEO, did not you? You heard that Dominic Stone is taking the company in a different direction. You're worried about your position. His expression shifted, became defensive. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. You did not miss me, Trevor. You missed having someone waiting for you. Someone you could control. That is not fair. No, what was not fair was making me feel crazy for wanting basic respect and communication. What was not fair was 6 months of silence followed by suddenly showing up and expecting me to fall back into your arms. Trevor's face hardened. Fine. If that is how you feel, then leave. But do not come crying back to me when you realize what you gave up. Natalie walked to the door, then turned back. I already know what I gave up. 6 months of my life trying to be someone I am not. Consider this my official goodbye, Trevor. I hope you find what you are looking for. But it will not be me. She walked out, her heart pounding but her head clear. The revelation. Dominic was waiting in the lobby of her apartment building when she got home. He stood up the moment he saw her. I know you did not ask me to be here, he said quickly. But I could not stop thinking about you facing him alone. I just wanted you to know someone was waiting. That you had somewhere safe to come home to. Natalie felt tears spring to her eyes. How did you know I would need this? Because 10 years ago, I left without saying goodbye. I spent a decade regretting that I never fought for what I wanted. I am not making that mistake again. I know this is fast. I know we just reconnected. But Natalie, you were my first love. The girl I never forgot. And now that life has given us this impossible second chance, I am not letting fear keep me silent. I ended things with Trevor, she said softly. For good this time. Because you were right. I deserve someone who shows up. Someone who sees me as more than convenient. Someone who remembers my lavender tea. Dominic stepped closer. I remember everything about you. And I want to know everything I missed. Every story. Every dream. Every moment of the last 10 years. If you will let me. I'm scared, Natalie admitted. What if this is too good to be true? What if the universe is just playing a cruel joke? Then we face it together. But Natalie, I have learned something in the last 10 years. Life is too short to let fear make our choices. I already lost you once. I am not losing you again unless you tell me that is what you want. Natalie looked into his eyes and saw everything Trevor had never been. Honesty. Vulnerability. Real courage that came from surviving pain and choosing hope anyway. I don't want to lose this either, she whispered. I want to see where this goes. I want to know the man you became. I want to build something real. Dominic smiled, that same transforming smile from the cafe. Then let's start right now. Tell me about your favorite Christmas memory. They sat in her apartment lobby until midnight, talking about everything and nothing. And as Christmas Day dawned, Natalie realized that sometimes the wrong number was exactly the right one. Sometimes the message that went astray was actually finding its way home. And sometimes love did not need to be perfect. It just needed to be true. The company gala. 3 weeks passed like a dream wrapped in reality. Natalie and Dominic moved carefully, taking time to truly know each other beyond the magical reconnection. They had coffee dates that turned into long walks. Dinner conversations that stretched past midnight. Quiet moments where words were not needed at all. But they had kept their relationship private. Dominic was still new as CEO, navigating company politics and establishing his leadership. Natalie was still a junior coordinator, conscious of how their relationship might appear to others. They agreed to wait until the timing felt right to go public. The annual Hartwell Industries New Year Gala changed everything. The event was held at the Grand Cascade Hotel, a glittering affair where the entire company gathered to celebrate the year's achievements and toast to new beginnings. Natalie wore a deep emerald dress that made her feel elegant and confident. She arrived with her colleague and friend, Jessica Park, determined to enjoy the evening without drawing attention. Across the ballroom, Dominic stood surrounded by board members and senior executives. He wore a tailored black suit that made him look every inch the powerful CEO. But when his eyes found Natalie across the room, his expression softened in a way that made her heart skip. They had not planned to arrive together or make any public display. But the connection between them was magnetic, impossible to hide. "You have not stopped staring at the new CEO," Jessica whispered, nudging Natalie. "Everyone is talking about how different he is from Trevor. Actually listens to people. Cares about work-life balance. It's almost suspicious how perfect he seems." Natalie smiled. "Maybe he is just actually a good person. Or maybe," a familiar voice said behind them, "he has excellent taste in who he stares at across ballrooms." Natalie turned to find Trevor Walsh, champagne glass in hand, his expression cold. He had returned from Singapore 2 weeks ago and had been making his presence known, particularly his displeasure with the new leadership direction. "Trevor," Natalie said evenly. "I did not realize you would be here." "Why would I not be? I built half the partnerships this company relies on. Unlike our new CEO who thinks he can just waltz in and change everything." His eyes raked over her dress. "You look good. Too good to be wasting your time here alone." "She is not alone," Jessica said firmly. "And you should probably move along before you embarrass yourself." Trevor ignored her, focusing entirely on Natalie. "I have been thinking about what you said. You were right. I took you for granted. But I have changed. I want to prove it to you. Give me one dance. Just one. Let me show you I can be the man you needed." "No, thank you," Natalie said simply. "I have moved on, Trevor. I meant what I said." "Moved on to who exactly?" His voice took on an edge. "Because from where I stand, you are still alone. Still in the same position. Still going nowhere. The public declaration." "Actually," a deep voice said, and Dominic appeared beside Natalie, "she has moved on to someone who knows her worth. Someone who would never be foolish enough to let her go in the first place." The conversation around them quieted. People turned to watch. Trevor's face went red. "This is inappropriate," Trevor hissed. "She is an employee. You are the CEO. This is a clear violation of company policy." "Actually," Dominic said calmly, "I have already disclosed our relationship to HR and the board. All proper protocols have been followed. Natalie and I are not in a direct reporting relationship. Everything is above board and ethical. Unlike some previous situations I could mention." The implication was clear. Trevor had been Natalie's direct supervisor when they dated, a violation he had convinced her to keep secret. Trevor's hands clenched. "You have been here 3 weeks and you think you understand this company? You think you can just take whatever you want?" "I do not take anything," Dominic said, his voice steel wrapped in silk. "But I do fight for what matters. And Natalie matters more than you will ever understand. Now, I believe the lady asked you to leave. I suggest you respect that." For a moment, Trevor looked like he might argue further. But the crowd was watching, and even he knew when he was beaten. He downed his champagne and walked away, shoving past several colleagues. Natalie let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. "You did not have to do that. Yes, I did, Dominic said, turning to face her fully. The entire ballroom was watching now, but he seemed not to care. I spent 10 years regretting silence. I am not being silent about this. About you. About us. He held out his hand. Dance with me. Let everyone see that I am the luckiest man in this room. That I found my first love again, and this time I am brave enough to choose her publicly. Natalie took his hand, and he led her to the center of the dance floor. The music shifted to something slow and romantic. As they began to move together, the whispers started, but Natalie found she did not care. In Dominic's arms, with his hand firm on her waist and his eyes locked on hers, the rest of the world faded away. Are you sure about this? She whispered. Going public like this? People will talk. Let them talk. I have spent enough of my life living for other people's opinions. My father's expectations. Rebecca's plans. The board's approval. But you, Natalie, you make me want to live for something real. Something true. The grand gesture. As the song ended, Dominic did not let her go. Instead, he turned to face the crowd, his hand still holding hers. I know this is unconventional, he said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. And I know some of you are wondering about propriety and protocol. So let me be clear. Natalie Chen and I have known each other for 10 years. We met in college. Life separated us. And through a twist of fate, we found each other again. He turned to look at her, and his eyes held everything she had ever hoped to see. I have disclosed this relationship to all appropriate parties. Natalie will be transferring to a different department where there is no reporting conflict. Everything is being handled properly. But more importantly, I want everyone here to know that this woman is extraordinary. She is brilliant at her job. She cares deeply about this company. And she deserves to be recognized for her own merits, not as someone's girlfriend or someone's ex. He squeezed her hand. I am proud to stand beside her. And I hope you will all join me in toasting to new beginnings. For the company and for all of us brave enough to take chances on what matters most. The room erupted in applause. Jessica was wiping her eyes. Several senior executives were smiling. Even some who had seemed skeptical were clapping. Natalie felt tears slide down her cheeks. You are impossible, you know that? Impossibly in love with you, Dominic said softly, just for her. I know it is fast. I know we are still learning each other. But Natalie, I have spent 10 years wondering what if. I do not want to spend another day wondering. I want to build something real with you. I want morning coffee and late-night conversations. I want to support your dreams and have you challenge mine. I want everything, if you will have me. Natalie laughed through her tears. You remembered my lavender tea and you fight for what matters. How could I possibly say no to that? Is that a yes? That is a yes to seeing where this goes. A yes to being brave together. A yes to believing that sometimes wrong numbers and accidental messages are the universe's way of correcting our path. Dominic kissed her then, in front of the entire company, in front of Trevor's scowling face, in front of everyone who had ever doubted that real love could find its way through time and chance and mistakes. 6 months later. The spring sunshine poured through the windows of the Riverside Gallery where Natalie now worked as an assistant curator. She had taken Dominic's advice and pursued her real passion, leaving Hartwell to follow her dreams in the art world. Dominic had supported her completely, even celebrating when she got the position. He appeared in the doorway of her office, holding 2 cups of lavender tea. I thought you had meetings all afternoon, Natalie said, surprised but delighted. I did. I moved them. Because 6 months ago today, you accidentally sent me a message that changed my life. And I wanted to spend this afternoon with you, remembering how miracles sometimes look like mistakes. Natalie took the tea, warmth spreading through her chest. You remembered. I remember everything about you. That is never going to change. They sat in her office, drinking tea and talking about their days. About the exhibition Natalie was planning. About Dominic's latest initiative to improve work culture at Hartwell. About the life they were building together, one honest conversation at a time. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not changed your number? Natalie asked. If my message had gone to Trevor like I intended? Dominic considered this. I think we would have found each other anyway. Maybe not that night. Maybe not in that way. But I believe some connections are too strong to stay broken forever. We were always meant to find our way back to each other. That is very romantic for a CEO, Natalie teased. I learned it from someone who taught me that passion is not something to apologize for. That fighting for what matters is always worth it. That true love does not require perfection, just presence. Natalie set down her tea and moved to sit beside him. I love you, Dominic Stone. My first love. My second chance. My right number that came from a wrong one. I love you, Natalie Chen. The girl with the purple thermos. The woman who never stopped believing people deserved better endings. My forever that I am finally brave enough to choose. Outside the window, Seattle moved forward into spring. Inside the gallery, two hearts that had found each other across time, distance, and impossible odds held tight to the truth that mattered most. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with mistakes. Sometimes the messages that go astray are actually finding their destined recipient. And sometimes, when you are brave enough to be vulnerable, the universe responds with exactly what your heart needs most. Not a perfect love, but a true one. And that made all the difference. The end.